to talk a little bit today about how this project evolved and sort of what the evolution of it was. Philadelphia has been long considered a sort of parochial city. It's one of the oldest cities in the United States, and it has sort of, until the mid-'80s, lacked any real tall buildings. This is what Philadelphia looked like in 1914, and if anyone was watching the Phillies game last night, that's South Broad Street. That's where everybody was partying. So, hopefully it'll be a good Phils-Yanks series. The Philadelphia at one time, in the late 1800s, actually was home to the world's tallest building, Philadelphia City Hall. It's actually the tallest, still the world's tallest Freemasonry structure at 548 feet. And there was a sort of a gentleman's agreement that had always existed that nothing would be taller in the city than the base of Billy Penn's feet. Philadelphia was traditionally a city defined by industrial and manufacturing. And in the 1920s, the city laid out a plan to create some open space, actually took down huge swaths and created the Parkway, which is actually modeled after the Champs-Élysées in Paris. And you can see also sort of where the industrial area was with the rail yards. This is sort of the scene you would see if you had watched Rocky 1 or 2. This is Philadelphia pre any buildings going above the base of Billy Penn. So everything here is under 540, or actually under 520 feet. And everything here is sort of form follows function. It's all single-use buildings. There were no mixed-use projects yet proposed in Philadelphia. As time evolved, Philadelphia introduced, the first building actually was to go above the height of Billy Penn was the one with a spire in the middle there, 1 Liberty Place followed by 2 Liberty Place, which was a mixed-use project that had hotel, now residential, retail, and office space. The most recent addition to the skyline was the Comcast Center, which is although the tower itself is a mixed-use project, it did an excellent job of expanding the Philadelphia's underground concourse system and really linking into the transportation nodes. And we've seen it, the proposed site for the American Commerce Center right now is a surface parking lot. And what we have seen is a drastic reduction in the number of cars coming into the city since the Comcast Center opened and expanded the transit hub, which is a real positive for the city, obviously. Here's what it looks like from the Parkway. And this is what this map sort of shows is the sort of evolution of how the city has evolved. The city, although it was planned by the planners, primarily Edmund Bacon, to grow from east to west along Market Street and JFK, the city started to move northwards. And the sort of looking back on it now with 2020 hindsight, the reason for that is the public transportation system. Philadelphia, although it really lacks an inner-city subway system, has a very good transportation system with nodes, peripheral nodes leading into the city's core. And that's what we've found. That's what's driven development. And part of the vision behind this project was linking into that system and creating a mixed-use project that was much more sustainable than traditionally. Now, we engaged Cohn Pedersen Fox, and they brought us through a number of iterations as we were planning this building. We looked at single tower schemes, we looked at multi-tower schemes, and it's a 65,000 square foot site, and we ended up settling on a mixed-use project with a 2-tower scheme that is actually the closest rendition is the one that's on the bottom right. That's where we started from, and it evolved from there. Now, Philadelphia is a very interesting city to develop in. It's very parochial. It's you sort of have I'll call them the old line Philadelphians, where they complain about everything. So the building was too tall, or the building creates shadows, and then in the same sentence they also say that it creates sun glare. A big building is going to bring crime to the area, so as if a surface parking lot is the safest place in the city. And there's also a lot of economic challenges for a city like Philadelphia. It's not the most dynamic and high-growth city in the United States. And so you need to have a very focused development that is driven primarily by a tenant. That is sort of how this project got started. Right now, one of the challenges, obviously, in this economic environment, market rents have fallen. They do not equal feasibility rents. You really have to have a tenant be willing to step up and pay the rents. But things are getting better for Philadelphia. We have experienced population growth in Center City, not in the entire city itself, but things are moving in the right direction. Now, this project was envisioned as a mixed-use project, and we were able to sort of put, from top to bottom, we have a broadcast spire, we have an observation deck, we have office space, conference facilities, a hotel, retail, and a transit concourse connection. So the building on a very tight site is able to pack in a lot of density, a lot of uses, and I think the architects did a very good job of integrating them in together seamlessly so that you really sort of feel like they work together as opposed to just being clumped onto the same site. Again, this is the sort of how the transit connections work. One of the advantages of this site is that it is directly linked into the regional rail hub, so you can get to anywhere in the suburbs, you can get to the airport, you can get to New York or DC within about, New York in 68 minutes, DC in 80 minutes. You can get right to I-95, which is the thoroughfare through the city, and it's within walking distance of approximately 90,000 people that live in downtown Philadelphia. This is the concourse connection. This is currently what is existing. You have a picture there of what's existing underneath Comcast Center, which is the current tallest building in the city at 975 feet. We have been working with the city planners to extend that concourse up underneath the 1800 Arch Street site, which is where this is located. And obviously we have a floor plan there of what things look like. The goal is to sort of make it a more than just a tunnel, but make it a vibrant, active space. So obviously retail does that, and we're looking at a number of different retail uses to go in there. We also studied how do people interact with the site. We didn't want them just approaching the site and sort of coming up on this big, large building, but it was more how do people approach it, how do they get into it, how do they engage with it. And this is all the different ways with all the different public spaces and how people would get there. So obviously it's a series of concourse connections, sidewalks, plazas, elevated plazas and elevators that move people up and down through the space. The most important floor and what got the most design scrutiny and took the most thought was the first floor, the ground floor of the building. We spent a considerable amount of time working with the city planners to come up with a design that, although for our benefit, maximizes density on the site and uses as much of the site as possible, but it still at the same time engages the pedestrian, allows room to breathe, we'll call it, and sort of finds ways to draw them into the site. And I think we were able to do that on what is a very, very tight site. The floor plans are sort of, your typical column-free spans. We were designing this with tenants in mind, and we are in talks with tenants, and I'll get to that in a bit. You can sort of see it's a double-loaded corridor for a hotel in the second tower, and the office tower is basically 160 feet by 160 feet roughly. We do have that tower floor which goes across the building. That is designed for a specific tenant where it's be designed for like a trading environment. But again, it provides a large office plate. But I think one of the ingenious parts of this design is that it was elevated up. That's typically a floor which is down low, and we were able to sort of take density, push it up, and provide some relief to the site. This is the second floor of that bridge, the amenity floor for the hotel. You've got a 9,800 square foot ballroom and 17,000 square feet of meeting space, as well as a restaurant. And again, this is designed to be a place where all the different components of the site come together. All the different office floors have access to this floor directly, as well as the hotel and retail concourse spaces, all access directly to this floor. So the idea is, it's although it's up at 480 feet high, it is designed to draw people into that space. Here's one of the upper floors. You can see how things set back. We were trying to maximize the tightest core possible and create the most efficiency for the tenants. Here's some of the views. This is from 900 feet. This is what the tenants will be looking at as when the building gets built. And one of the most important things that we focused on was the green and LEED aspects of the building. The building was designed right now to LEED Gold, and we've been investigating looking at LEED Platinum. And what we found, it's been interesting, is that I think at the present time, LEED Gold makes economic sense. LEED Platinum does not yet. The payback doesn't really quite equate to making all of the commitments to it. I don't think the efficiencies are quite there yet with some of the waterless urinals and things like that. The function doesn't follow. Again, we're looking at linking into all the different public transportation nodes. We've got subway, rail, regional rail, bus, and trolleys that run right by the site. We also looked at, sort of on the curtain wall, how much natural light's coming into the site. That was a very important part of the design for us, and it was one of the things that's being driven by a couple of our anchor tenants. We also have these green spaces, these elevated plazas that are effectively green roofs that allow, sort of invite the public up into the building. Really, when we were looking at the design, the retail was designed to really draw people to the building, and those green spaces, those public rooms, were designed to draw people up and into the building. So we were trying to make it as inviting as possible. We also looked at alternative means of transportation, which in a city like Philadelphia, which is very walkable. The core of Center City is really 2 miles by 1 mile, and this building is located almost dead center of that. So it's very walkable from pretty much anywhere in Center City. And currently in Center City, Philadelphia, roughly 60% of the individuals who work and live walk to work. The retail and the bottom, I'll call it 60, 75 feet, was really the most important to us, because that is the part of the building that sort of captures and engages at the street level. And what we were looking to do was design a building that was both iconic from afar, but very enticing and sort of interacting, engaging, and inviting to the pedestrian. And I think that the architects did a great job of that. That large terracotta mass there in the middle is a movie theater. The building right now is designed with 5 levels of retail, the top being the movie theater. Ground floor, we have restaurants, banks, and a department store planned, as well as a spa health club. This is the project at night from 18th and Arch Street. Looking up, obviously, one of the challenges we had was a very tight site, and as you could tell from the earlier pictures, there were some very large, sort of squat structures behind us. And I think the challenge for us was, how do we make a new large building sort of that smack up against these older structures? How do they make them work together? And what the architects came up with was this urban room and sort of lifting up the hotel and creating these large open areas. It sort of provides relief from the density. It pushes the density up higher. And I think, after a lot of debate and a lot of speeches like this, we were able to educate the public and make them understand that there is a benefit. Although the density is there, by creating these areas, these public areas, we're able to still maintain their light, still maintain their views, and provide an environment which is a balance for them as well. This is the building during the day. This is looking from the southeast, and when we acquired the site, one of the first decisions we had to make was, where would we locate the tower? And sort of, if you asked any broker in the city, any leasing broker, they would have said 18th Street, because Comcast Center was across the street. There was another tower. There's actually 2 more towers, one to the south, one to the north. And what we wanted to do was provide some relief and provide a setback. So we put the plaza in place. We sort of took some respect to the church. Wanted to sort of scale off of that. The top of the bridge actually is just short of Billy Penn's feet, so there are some historical drawbacks from there. And then obviously we brought the tower, and I think by putting it on 19th Street, that's sort of the end of the city core as well. So we'll always have those views for the tenants going forward. And here it is at night. Now, one of the things that I was tasked to talk about today was, what are the challenges of developing a project like this? And the biggest one, obviously, especially for a mixed-use project today, is that there's financing disparities. I mean, we can make an argument whether a capital market even exists for commercial real estate development. I think the answer to that right now is no. But with a project like this, and I think, especially with the office component, you can, move forward with the development by taking out as much of the risk of the development as possible. The way to do that is to obviously partner up with very high credit, large tenants. I think that the old rules of 30, 40, or 50% pre-lease to get a building kicked off in this environment are well past us. We are probably looking at a 70, 80% plus pre-leasing requirement to kick off an office tower like this. The biggest challenge for us in this project would be financing of the hotel. There effectively is no market for hotel financing, but we are looking offshore and looking at alternative means. The challenge for the hotel is that it represents over 20% of the cost, but only about 5% of the income, mostly driven by the fact that ADRs and occupancy rates and RevPAR have just collapsed in the Mid-Atlantic region. Last thing, this is just a picture of the urban room that's in the middle there. It provides almost over half an acre of space, entirely open to the public. You can sort of see the glass elevator there on the left that links everything in. That goes down to the concourse that pulls people directly up from the transportation nodes, from the sidewalk, from the plaza levels, from the retail. And again, we're trying to invite the public back into the project so that they can experience the building as well as the tenants. That's it. Thanks.